YouTube, good evening. Heir of Carthage here, back on Total War Attila, and I've got a couple of special replays for you here. This is going to be the finals of the Beta Flash Tournament. I believe this was a tournament that took place on the very first day of the release of the game. So players had to quickly find out what was going to work and then do their best to make it work. It was a 36-man tournament. And these are the finals, and the finals are between a couple of names that you've probably heard before if you've watched too much tournament footage. Representing the West Romans, here is Diplomat, anyway, he's got, or sorry, West Roman. I meant East Romans. So he is representing the East Romans. Let's take a look at his army. We'll go up here to the screen, and then we'll announce who his opponent is and his opponent's build. Well, you know, I thought I was going to find a good view for that. This will work. Whoa, it's kind of jumpy. Sorry about that. Anyway, and the game's paused because I want you to be able to see all the action, and I think we all know that Attila battles typically don't tend to be very long. So on either flank, he's got a Limitani border guard. I always want to say bodyguard, but it is border guards. And then it looks like we've got 2 Equites Promoti on his right flank, 2 Equites Promoti in his center, and then his general has a Magister Militum, and an Equite Promoti on his left flank. And then in the center, it looks like we've got a mix of Eastern Armored Legio and Legio. So, yep, and he's got quite a few infantry, considering it's Attila. He's got 7 infantry, and then 2 Ballistari, which are light crossbowmen. So that is the army of East Rome, commanded by Diplomat. Let's take a look at the army of his opponent, which is Panda Warrior. Also another big name from tournaments, so not too surprising that these two ended up in the finals, and I don't mean that in a way like the other players aren't good enough to potentially make it here, but these two seem to make it to the finals of tournaments fairly often. So let's go ahead and run through Panda's build. Very interesting that he has Germanic pikes on his flank, and that's a good thought because the pikes are the biggest, probably the biggest, or the most they're probably the most reliable opposition to cavalry when they're in their head-on position. Obviously, they can still be killed by cavalry, but I think that's why he's put them here. It really wards off charges and could potentially be helpful if he had been facing Tagmata Cav, which was limited to 2 in this tournament, I believe, if not banned altogether. I don't know. His main infantry line, looks like we've got a couple of noble Germanic swords on either flank. This is a good choice. This is a high health unit. Their attack is pretty underwhelming. But, you know, again, good morale, high health. They're going to tank out some damage. His center line is Gothic Warband, which is a very offensive unit. So he's kind of got tankiness on the flanks and offense in the center. And his center, though, is being protected by a couple of Germanic Lancers. And then he's got his Royal Sionis Cav here, which is very good versus infantry. And then he's got this Germanic Horseman. His general is in the Royal Sionis, by the way. And I'm assuming the rest of his cavalry is going to be Germanic Horsemen. It makes sense. Germanic Horsemen with some upgrades are actually a very cost-effective unit. So definitely a good choice by Panda. So Panda's all rush, whereas Diplomat has a couple of skirmishers. Now, I know some of you don't like it when I pause the game, but just doing that so that I can call this out and we can call the whole battle as it happens. So let's kind of see this. Now, they are both stretched very thin. And some of you might be like, that's crazy. Why would they stretch that thin? Cavalry will destroy them. Well, the reason they stretch thin is because it makes it harder to be outflanked. Yes, cavalry absolutely will destroy these thin formations. But as you can see, they're keeping cavalry around to guard their thin formations. Both players are doing this with the knowledge that you can't allow your infantry to be wrecked. Now, Panda's guys are a little blockier, so they would brace better potentially if charged. But I mean, melee infantry pretty much just gets wrecked by any cavalry charge. So let's kind of just see. Both players are advancing slowly. This is a good plan. You can see him actually walking. Well, looks like Panda's going to run a little bit, but you got to be careful with your fatigue. In Attila, units fatigue rather quickly. They do recover quickly, which is nice, but they fatigue quickly. And the fatigue plays a big role, obviously, if you go into combat exhausted versus being fresh. Let's take a close-up look. These are the noble Germanic swords. So again, these are the kind of tankier, more defensive units. And then here's his Gothic Warband, which are very cool-looking units. Very nice attack, but obviously you can see very low armor. And then we'll get a close-up of some of the... these are some of the Legio here. Very cool late Roman legions. And then the Armored Legio are going to be over here in the center. Very cool, Eastern Armored Legio. Again, a very defensive unit, but very nice stats. They have a few upgrades. All Roman units in the game, well, I say all of them, a lot of the standard legionary units tend to have very nice health and good shields, which kind of helps them tank out damage, but they're not very offensive. Whereas a lot of the barbarians have access to infantry that's extremely offensive. And not just offensive because of their language, but, you know, offensive in capability. I guess it could be offensive due to their odor as well, but, you know, who knows. That could apply to Romans just the same. Okay, lame jokes aside, let's get back to the tournament. So Panda moving up aggressively, and see how he keeps these pikes right behind his cavalry. And basically, I'm guessing he's going to be trying to bait. Yeah, look, here comes a charge from the Equites Promoti. Now, these guys do have some excellent javelins, but the Germanic horse actually didn't take any losses, and now they're going to run behind their own pikes. Now, I know it's derpy that you can run through your own pikes and not take damage, but that's what happens, and that's a good use of this mechanic to ward off the Equites Promoti of Diplomat. So, and then these spearmen are spread thin, and then, yeah, see, here you go. He is going to take some Plumbata darts here. Panda is, but he's going to wreck up this Limitani border guard really bad with that quick charge, and again, he can retreat behind his pikes. And Diplomat just calls off the chase, but the Plumbata darts coming from these Eastern Armored Legio are taking a toll. But I mean, you can see these Germanic horsemen already with 56 kills, and this disruption, and check it out, this is going to be bad. Bad for Diplomat, that is. Diplomat does kind of intercept it with his Magister Militum, but these Germanic Lancers are going to have gotten some nice kills there. Yeah, 30 kills very quickly. Anyway, Panda's closing in on this flank. He's losing some Germanic horsemen, but he's got more here, so he'll be safe for the time being. Germanic horsemen are quite cheap, which is going to be their main advantage over Equites Promoti, besides the fact that they have nice stats for a lower price. Equites Promoti are not horrible cav. They're just very expensive, it seems like, for what they do. They do have a couple of very nice javelins, but they're pretty underwhelming on the charge. I tend to prefer to use the Scolai Platini. Obviously, Tagmata Cav would be even better. Whoa, here comes a Germanic Lancer charge. Ouch. So Panda right now is getting some very nice charges, and it's been a rough start for Diplomat. Here comes another one right down the center here with another Germanic Lancer. Ouch. Unit's going to take a beating here, too. He does intercept it with the Equites Promoti, and that will beat up the Lancer very badly, but at this point, I think Panda is kind of almost willing to sacrifice certain units. Here comes his Royal Sionis Cav to reinforce this fight. That is definitely a pretty tanky Cav unit to bring here, almost 300 health. Another charge from Panda Warrior. Panda Warrior has gotten some just decimating charges, and I think that's probably the main reason why right now, as you can see from above, it's looking in favor of Panda Warrior at the moment, but it's really just because of the charges, and cavalry charges are a huge piece of gaining victory in Attila, and Diplomat is obviously, I think, doing what he can to try and stop it, but I mean, it just takes one quick mistake for a few seconds, and that charge will decimate your infantry. It's kind of like cavalry was on Napoleon almost. Like, you get a good charge on there, and it'll smash infantry. So it's similar in that respect. So yeah, at this point, you're getting a wraparound here by some of the Gothic Warband. That's going to be punishing. These guys have a high charge value and great offensive stats. They're going to be getting some kills. You can see that rocketing up fairly quick. The Ballistari are taking their, well, I thought they'd be taking their toll. Only 18 kills here and 10 here, so that's not good. If these Ballistari maybe could have killed some German cav quicker, may have been helpful, but that's the problem. When he brings these Ballistari, it kind of means Panda's going to have more units, and then he has to protect them. And I'm not saying it's a bad choice to bring Ballistari. I've seen them used well multiple times, but here you can see that Diplomat was just not able to turn it around. Panda got those charges. They were very important charges, and he ends up taking the victory here as the Ostrogoths versus the East Romans, which is a nice job. The Ostrogoths are a good faction, though, and the East Romans, obviously, if they could field as much Tagmata Cav as they want, could definitely put some hurt on the Ostrogothic Cav. But even without the Tagmata Cav, the East Romans are capable. This was a good build, and it was interesting to see the support of cavalry with the pikes. I liked that. It was very interesting to put the tanky units on the flank and the weak ones in the center for Panda, and then just protect them with Lancer Cav. So I like that idea as well. Diplomat's army I like also. I mean, this sturdy infantry corps, the Roman infantry, very tanky. The idea that you could maybe shoot down the enemy general or cavalry with crossbows and just do your best to protect with 5 of these Equites Promoti and a Magister Militum. I think both builds have merit, and obviously in this case Panda did a good job with what he had brought, and a good game to Diplomat as well. Whenever I commentate these tournaments, I don't ever want you all to think that like, oh, I know better. I can play so much better than these players in tournaments. Clearly not, because I don't play in the tournaments for the most part. It's just me giving commentary as if I was like a sportscaster or something, right? You know that the quarterback in the field is most likely better than the sportscaster, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage, signing off for now.